All right, APLAT. So you've already gotten a general overview of Caesar from the introductory material in our Caesar textbook. So this is a little bit closer look at his consulship and the war in Gaul that he uh, essentially manufactures. So we're gonna start in 59 BC with his consulship that we know that he obtains, and his co-consul is a guy named Bibulus, Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus. And long story short, Caesar and Bibulus are not friends, but we know that Caesar is friends with two other guys, Gnaeus Pompey, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, Pompey the Great, and another guy named Marcus Licinius Crassus. So Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey form what historians call the first triumvirate, and they are the ones that get Caesar elected as consul. And so, in part of their agreement is that when Caesar becomes consul, the first thing he's going to do, or one of the first things he's going to do, is try to get a land bill passed that's going to allow them to settle Pompey's veteran soldiers. And so, this is highly contentious. Bibulus and Cato are two of the prime opponents. And so, a couple things happen here that immediately make public opinion go against Caesar. And the first thing is that Cato decides to filibuster in the Senate when the land bill comes up for a vote. Caesar has Cato arrested and taken out of the Curia, or out of wherever the Senate is meeting. And this doesn't go over well. And long story short is that he's essentially forced to let Cato go free after arresting him. The second thing is that as they are debating out in public, Bibulus comes out and opposes the land bill, and Caesar hires some of those veterans and ex-slaves and gladiators and things or slaves and ex-gladiators to essentially rough him up. And so they actually pour dung over his head, and then they beat him off of the steps of the Temple of Castor and Pollux where they're debating the issue. So Bibulus basically just goes home. He goes home, locks the door, and he spends the rest of the consulship essentially looking for terrible signs from the gods, and then every morning issuing a decree that everything that the Senate does or did that day is null and void because the signs from the gods were bad. And we'll come back to that. Caesar, by the way, also gets past his proconsulship in Gaul, and he is given control over two provinces, Gallia Cisalpina and Gallia or in Illyricum. And so you can see them here on the map. And so Italy is right here, and we have these very pretty peaceful provinces, but they form this border between Italia and Rome, and all of Gaul, which is made up of all of those tribes. And Rome has a long history of battling the Gauls and battling the Germans up here. So again, we'll come back to all of this. Caesar also gets a new land bill passed, and again has this 5-year proconsulship coming up. He gets a third province added, Gallia Transalpina, which is much more lucrative in the sense of being a general with a bunch of soldiers who want to go to war and bring some money back to Rome. And so he's got this nice wide swath of land here that he is going to govern and control, but we'll come back to that. So he also orchestrates the marriage of Pompey to Caesar, orchestrates the marriage of Pompey and his daughter Julia. This makes their alliance widely apparent to everybody else, and so it's one of those things that again turns public opinion against Caesar. Crassus also in all of these dealings is sort of left out in the cold, and so it's pretty clear to him that he's sort of the third wheel. The Senate, for its part, says they offer Caesar an olive branch for all of these wheelings and dealings that he's been going about over the year of his consulship. And they say, tell you what, we will offer you a deal. if you recognize that everything that you've done is illegal because of Bibulus's proclamations, remember him at home saying that he's seen terrible signs from the gods. If you admit all that that was illegal, we will allow you to propose all of it again under the proper circumstances. Caesar says, forget that. I'm not doing that. And so he doesn't take their deal, and really, I guess not too much comes of it, except that he doesn't win over any senators. So now, he's got these 3 provinces, and so he's got some cleaning up to do before he goes off to Gaul. So he gets a couple people, a couple allies to become the consuls the next year. Cicero, his old opponent, has actually been exiled because a few years earlier, 62-61 BC, there was a conspiracy to kill Cicero and take over the state by a guy named Catiline. And I've referred to this in class in passing every once in a while. And Cicero uncovers the conspiracy. Cicero was the consul, and he uncovers the conspiracy. He goes to war against, or has a legion fight Catiline's ragtag group. They defeat him, and he arrests some of the conspirators that he finds in Rome. And rather than put them up to trial because they're Roman citizens, he actually just has them killed. And so Caesar has this ally named Publius Clodius Pulcher, and he is a tribune, and Clodius actually has Cicero exiled. So we're clearing the path against all opposition here. So Cicero's gone. Remember Cato? He goes to, Crassus is kind of marginalized. Pompey marries Julia to seal that partnership. And now the other ally, or the other opponent here, Cato, Clodius actually has sent to Cyprus to govern that area, to secure that area, which was newly annexed. So he basically clears out Rome of all of Caesar's big opponents, and Pompey's the one that's left there. And so he becomes extremely powerful while Caesar's gone. The other part of this, though, is that this is the 50s BC in Rome, and there's mob rule. I mean, if you want to get anything done, you have to darn near kill somebody to do it, and get a mob of ex-gladiators and slaves and a bunch of tough guys to push it through. Eventually, Cicero is recalled under the condition that he promises to support Caesar and all of Caesar's kind of wheelings and dealings. So let's focus in on Gaul here. Okay, so when Caesar gets to Gaul, there are these 3 tribes right away that he has to kind of deal with. One is the Helvetians. Okay. Another is a group called the Aedui, and the Aedui are allies of Rome. Rome kind of puts up with these other guys. There's this third group called the Sequani, and the long story short here is that the Sequani, who are here, get into a conflict with the Aedui and essentially defeat them, or sort of take over their territory, come to a mutual agreement and take over their territory. This really concerns the Helvetii, and the Helvetians, by the way, Helvetii is the ancient version we make equivalent with the Swiss, the people from Switzerland. The Helvetians decide, you know what, we don't want any part of this, so we want to go over there. Well, there's 2 ways to do it. The Helvetians can either go through this territory where there's all of this fighting going on between the Aedui and the Sequani, or we can come down here where it's safe, but we have to go through Roman territory. So when Caesar gets to Gaul, one of the first things that he has to deal with is that the Helvetians ask Caesar to go through their territory. Caesar says, you know what, let me think about it. And while he is thinking about it, he breaks down the bridge that went over the Rhone. So he destroys that bridge. He builds all of these fortifications here, and he says, you know what, I thought about it. No, you can't do that. Well, the Helvetians don't have a choice, so they try to go across this territory. And when they do that, this is the ultimate catch-22 contrived war here. When they do that, Caesar says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You're messing up everything, and you're flipping the table over here and causing all sorts of unrest. That's an act of war, and you can't do that." So uh, the Roman troops go up and in order to fight the Helvetians, and they do something pretty amazing. They build a river over the Saône here in a day. Well, the Helvetians know what they're doing in this part of the town, in this part of town here, and they built a bridge too previously, but it took them 20 days, and they freak out. There's really no other term for this. They freak out, and after being sort of chased by the Romans and being turned away, um, and I'll show you more. So the Romans chase them over here. Um, they get sort of turned away there. They go to these guys, and Caesar warns these guys, "Hey, you don't help them." And then again, the Romans built this bridge over the Saône, and it took the Helvetians 20 days to do the same thing. And they're so freaked out that they say, "You know what? Okay, peace, 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 peace. We sue for peace." So they sign a treaty. They give the Romans a bunch of hostages to kind of guarantee the treaty. And now, with a quarter basically of their people slaughtered by the Roman resistance, um, they have to go back to their home and rebuild. So a huge statement for Caesar right at the get-go of his consulship. And we will pause there and start the second video from 58 and Aria Vistus.